This upgrade for Adagio FX 9.3b has a brand new feature for grouping related accounting transactions for simple project tracking, either retrieved from Adagio Ledger or imported from an external source. Before you can use this optional feature, whether you retrieve data from Adagio Ledger or not, it must first be enabled in the company profile. From the Options tab, select the Enable Project Tracking option. You can use different terminology than project, changing what will appear as the field label for reports and importing. Project codes can be formatted with up to 18 characters across 4 named segments with separator characters. In addition, if you retrieve multiple companies and consolidate them within Adagio FX, you should include a company code of up to 6 characters as either a prefix or a suffix, as a new segment of the project code format, to ensure codes are unique. In this case, the maximum code length is 24 characters. Once saved and project codes entered, this format cannot be changed. Projects support optional fields, following the same functionality as in other applications. Enter field labels here to store additional information. Retrieving data from Adagio Ledger has some new considerations for project tracking. When Ledger and FX both have project tracking enabled, project records are retrieved along with accounts and transactions. The entire list, if you are not appending the company data, or if you are appending, then only those project records with at least one transaction are retrieved. When retrieving and appending multiple companies, and you have indicated that the project code will have a leading or trailing company code segment, that company code is entered here. Typically, this value would be the same as the portion used in the department field to identify the retrieved company. And if you use the auto retrieve process to automatically retrieve company data into FX, a new company parameter is available to include in the setup for assigning a company value to project codes. Project records are maintained from the Edit menu and Projects. Create as many project records as required, each with a unique code. If defined, the company code will be the first or last segment. For each project record, enter the code and descriptions to identify it. Projects can be made inactive to prevent using when importing transactions. If you have optional fields defined, they will display here. Project records also store formatted address fields and contact information for reference as needed. If you need to create or update a larger volume of project records, you can import a list of projects with all the standard validation. When editing an account, you can specify on the General tab that project tracking is available. This determines when imported transactions recognize project codes from the file. Otherwise, in FX, it is assumed that the project has already been validated in the source data. Therefore, there are no validation options here. If you need to update a large volume of accounts to enable project tracking, the Import Accounts template has the new project tracking option. Reports have been created to accommodate the project codes. A general project report lists the project master record information, and a project transactions report, similar in nature to the detail listing report, prints a selection of posted transactions across various fiscal periods or years with running balances. The Financial Reporter drill down also supports seeing project codes on transactions. For companies or organizations that require more than 1 year of future budgets for analysis and reporting, it is now possible to use the Create Next Fiscal Budgets procedure more than once, so that up to 5 future fiscal years can have budgets and forecasts available in Adagio FX. The process is simple. Just run the function to create the next calendar year available. When 5 years are created, the menu option will become disabled. Retrieving data from Adagio Ledger 9.3b will also bring in all future budget years. Once the future years have been created, editing either budget or forecast amounts allows selecting any of the future budget years from the fiscal year drop-down field, provided they are unlocked for editing. Similarly, when importing budgets or forecasts, the fiscal year field on the Defaults tab shows all unlocked years. Importing transactions will only allow selecting up to the current fiscal year. If you maintain the accounting data strictly through import transactions and do not use Retrieve Company Data templates, there are new functions available for handling fiscal years. To enable these functions, open the Company Profile on the Options tab and enable Manual Fiscal Year Handling. Then, from the Maintenance menu, you can create the next fiscal year to initialize the data to allow importing transactions to that year. When this is complete, this menu option will now be inactive, as only one future year for transactions is supported. When you want to set this year as the current year for reporting, use the Maintenance menu process to change current fiscal year and set the next year as the new current year. Some grids in Adagio support filters to restrict visible rows to those that meet defined criteria. Now, a new grid search control allows filtering almost every grid, including Finder grids. To use this search, click on the grid to give it focus. Then press Ctrl F on the keyboard to launch it. The screen that appears is fairly simple, with a drop-down field to specify the comparison method, and a field to enter the value. The column title on which the search is based is in bold font here. To pick a different column to search on, use the Control and the left or right arrow keys to move the screen to the next column over. There are also arrow buttons that do the same column selection. With the desired column and search method selected, enter the search value. Results will immediately start to appear in this box, and a match count is also displayed. You can also backspace to remove from the search value for a broader search. When the search is done and at least one match was found, click the Apply button to restrict the grid rows to match the search list. Notice that the column title now has the letter R to indicate that the grid is restricted by results from that column. You may perform multiple searches on the same grid by pressing Ctrl F again, up to a maximum of 6 nested searches. When entering another criteria for any column, including the original search column, you can search within the restricted grid to create a further focused list. You can remove the most recently applied restriction by pressing the Ctrl Z keys. When the grid screen is closed, that will remove all grid restrictions. On each grid, the column and method for the first search is remembered by user, making it easier to search in subsequent uses. Read the complete list of features and changes from the release notes. Watch another video on this Adagio program from the playlist. Or subscribe to the Adagio YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.